Finally, Link has come back to his channel.
Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of Link Reviews. Today we're going to be reviewing, as you guessed from the little title up there and from the shirt I've got on, Toy Story 4. So as many of you will know, I've loved Toy Story since I was a little kid, as you can see up here. So before we kick off with the review, just going to tell you a really quick funny little Toy Story anecdote from when I was a kid. Literally, Christmas Day, I'd asked Santa, who was 100% real kids at home, I'd asked Santa if I could have a Toy Story costume for Christmas. Obviously his elves were really busy, so they didn't get time to make me this costume, so I didn't get this Buzz Lightyear costume for Christmas. Being the spoiled brat that I was upset by that. So my brother, this one who's up here now, helped me out, and he decided he would make me a little Buzz Lightyear costume. Yeah. One of those! It was cute. It was a really kind gesture that he took some boxes and made that costume, if you can call it that. But I was happy with it, as you can see. Like, I thought I was Buzz Lightyear, and we rocked on. So I was pleased. Now on to the review. So, the positives of the film. The first thing I want to say is it felt like a Toy Story movie. It had that same feel, even though most of it wasn't in Andy's bedroom this time. You still got that Toy Story feel. Obviously there were some returning characters, but there's a lot of new characters, and some of the older characters have been phased out. But yeah, it still felt like Toy Story is really important for me, as someone that's been watching it since I was a kid. Like, you don't want it changed too much. Now, other positive things is it looked beautiful. The graphics, the editing, the animation is terrific. It's so well done. It looks more realistic than other Toy Story films have in the past, but I'm down for it. It looks so good. Another thing I want to talk about is little cameos. There's some clever cameos in there. One of them is Tin Toy. I don't know if any of you have heard of Tin Toy before, but Tin Toy was originally basically the Pixar animation that led to making Toy Story. It was like the first animation they did, and they were like, oh yeah, that's good, let's make a proper film out of it. So for him to get a little cameo in there, it's not an important cameo, so that's not really a spoiler. It amused me. As someone that's been a fan of Toy Story for years, that just amused me a little bit. Now, the last positive I want to talk about is it was quite unpredictable and also emotional in the storytelling. You did not know what was about to happen. That's something that I liked about the film. It made it better for me. I liked the fact that I couldn't tell you what was about to happen in this movie. I couldn't tell you what was... there was a few bits I could have guessed, but I could not guess throughout the film where we were going, and that for me made it interesting. So yeah, that's the positive points. Now we're going to start the negatives with a couple of cameos that didn't happen that we wanted to. There was no Emperor Zurg. Sorry if that's a spoiler. He's my second favourite character after this boy, and I was disappointed he wasn't there. Now my third favourite character in the Toy Story franchise is Stinky Pete. He ain't in there either. I know he wasn't in 3, I don't believe. Might have made... No, he's not in 3. He's definitely not in 3. He wasn't in it either. They're two of my favourite characters, so I'd like to have seen them there. The fact they weren't there is a small negative. It's not the biggest problem in the world, but it is a little drawback. Another negative is, I feel a bit harsh with this one, is when you have a franchise the size of Toy Story, it is important that your video, or that your film, matches the quality of your older films. Like, this is a big complaint that people have had about things like Star Wars. Are the new Star Wars as good as the old ones? Was the prequel trilogy made with the same amount of passion and quality as the original saga. It's the same thing here, and I felt it a bit with Toy Story 3. Toy Story 3, it was definitely less noticeable. But yeah, it's like Toy Story 3 wasn't as good as 1 and 2. You got 1 and 2 here, Toy Story 3 was here somewhere. Now Toy Story 4 is in this gap. It's not as good as 1 and 2, but it's better than 3 at least. Which is definitely better than it could have been. It could have been awful because it's one of those things as well, like Star Wars, where Disney have a franchise which is so big, it's going to sell so much merch, it's going to get so many people go see it, they could make the worst film ever, and they're still going to turn over hundreds of millions of pounds, or dollars, whatever they fancy calling it that week. So yeah, it's definitely better than I perhaps anticipated it could have been, so that's a positive, but it wasn't as good as 1 and 2, which is obviously hard to replicate because they were so good and they were so original at the times. Now the other main negative of the film is it's really slow in parts. Sometimes the narrative is a bit extended beyond that of what it needs. Sometimes there's clips that they don't need to include bits of the story for the story. Like there's little bits which don't mean anything to the story and aren't all that entertaining that they've just dropped in there. Now, I love a little pointless cameo which is going to make the viewer smile, like the little tin toy cameo in there, like some of the little cameos they've done in Star Wars recently. But in terms of this film, they just dropped the ball a little bit in terms of momentum. Like the film would build momentum and then it would slow down and the momentum's gone. It's not as funny for a bit, it's too serious. And you could have told the story and maintained that same funny vibe that you had earlier on. So yeah, it just slowed down a little bit too much for me. So that's my other main negative point. So, what score are we going to give Toy Story 4? I'm going to give Toy Story 4 a solid 7 out of 10. The reason I'm giving it 7 out of 10 is I don't think it was quite as good as the others in the franchise. And I think there was ways they could improve it. And there's nothing about it that blew me away. But, yeah, it was good, and I enjoyed it. And don't get me wrong, I think this review might sound more negative than I intended to. It was a good film, I enjoyed it, it was funny, I left there happy. There was a couple of emotional moments that genuinely I did feel. But that could be because of my affinity with the franchise for so many years, rather than how good it was. But yeah, it's a 7 out of 10. It's not amazing, and it's not poor. It's at that upper end of good before you get to like brilliant. Thanks so much for watching today, guys. If you've enjoyed that, you can click up here and you can watch another video of mine. Or if you really love it, if you really, really love it, or even if you just like it a little bit, go down here and subscribe to the channel. It means you'll never ever miss what is coming up real soon.